My boyfriend said I wasn't pretty or good enough for his dream life, so I decided to be petty and get revenge. But I accidentally went too far and he spiraled into a meltdown. He's now calling me 50 times a day from the hospital bed. I was sitting in an Italian restaurant with my best friend Ellie when I got the text. It was my boyfriend Derek. Come over ASAP, we need to talk. I rolled my eyes because by this point I was already sick of his BS. We'd only been together for 2 months and already I felt trapped, used, and just all around depressed. But I was raised by parents who had been together for over 30 years, so I was always taught to work through problems instead of leaving it. Plus, I really did love him. Little did I know, he was getting ready to tell me something that made me wish we never met. I told Ellie about it, and she told me to call her afterwards and reminded me that she'd always be there. I thanked her, and as I drove to Derek's, the overthinking kicked in. When I made it to his college dorm, he hugged me and welcomed me in. I remember sitting at the edge of the bed, curled up in a ball and bracing myself for what's to come. He took out his laptop and showed me his website earnings. After a year of grinding, he had finally made a profit of $50. I stared at him blankly, not knowing where this was going. Babe, as you can see, I'm going to be rich soon. I nodded, with the straight-faced emoji expression plastered on my face. So, I'm gonna need you to step up and start going to the gym. My face contorted into a shape I didn't even think was possible due to the limitations of facial muscular structure. Derek then took out his phone, went into his camera roll, and proceeded to show me dozens of screenshots of porn stars, who I had nothing in common with, aside from our race, Wasian. He told me that because his ambition was high, he could now, in theory, get any girl he wanted, and if I didn't start working to attain his dream body type, then he would have no choice but to break up with me. Tears stung my eyes. I thought about all the times I had critiqued myself in the mirror, all the times I found myself crying in the dressing room, how I had always reassured myself with the knowledge that my boyfriend thinks I'm beautiful, but that was a lie. Derek wrapped his arms around me and proceeded to tell me that I deserved better, or in his words, someone that would choose my body type out of a row of faceless, unclothed girls instead of someone else's. I used all the strength I had to push him off me, and he asked if I wanted to spend the night together. That actually made me laugh. I ended up leaving, calling Ellie, and staying with her. When I got there, I told her and her mom everything, and they laughed. They reminded me of how I was worthy of love, how I didn't have to take any of this, and how my self-worth shouldn't be determined by a narcissist. Later that night, after yapping with Ellie until 3 a.m., we decided to show each other our LinkedIns. We decided to stalk Derek's account for some fun, and that's when we noticed someone. Derek's boss was connected with Ellie. This made me laugh aloud. I still don't know what came over me and Ellie. Maybe it was the high I felt after crying for so long, or maybe it was the fact we were two 19-year-olds awake past midnight. But we started joking about what would happen if I screwed Derek's boss. Ellie laughed and said he'd probably pick me over Derek to work there any day. For context, Derek was a real estate agent's assistant, and his boss was fine. Like, imagining us getting married and having pretty babies fine. And Ellie knew of him because she and Derek lived in the same area, and she knew that his boss was known for sleeping around with girls our age. So I sent Derek's boss a connection request. The next morning, I got post-nighttime clarity and freaked out, but Ellie convinced me to keep him as a connection. So I did. And sometime over the next few days, he reached out to me asking if I was looking for a job. His text made me blush, especially when I saw that he was just 23. So after waiting a few days to avoid coming off as too strong, I told him I wasn't and asked if he wanted to grab drinks. Ellie was beside me when I sent that text, and we both giggled. I manually turned my phone off out of fear for what he would say. A few hours later, I saw that he had said yes. My heart rushed. I couldn't believe it was actually happening. The whole thing had made me completely forget about Derek. This wasn't even for him anymore. It was for me. When we met up, his cologne intoxicated my 19-year-old hormones, and I wanted him. Bad. So when he invited me back to his place, I accepted. But right after making love, I was hit with this emptiness. It genuinely felt like every sad thing that's ever happened to me was all hitting me at once. So I cried. And Derek's boss, Max, the gentleman that he is, held me. The words poured out of me about how I was Derek's ex. Everything he had done to me. Everything he had said about him. Max. And Max just sat there in silence. For some reason, none of it seemed to surprise him. He reassured me that I was beautiful and ended up spooning me until I fell asleep. But when I woke up, he wasn't there. And I had 37 missed calls from Derek. I read through Derek's texts and my hands started shaking. He knew about Max. But how? Did Max tell him? Did someone see us? The messages started normal enough with "Where are you?" and "Are you okay?" but quickly escalated to "I know what you did, and you're going to regret this." I threw on my clothes from last night and called an Uber. No way was I doing the walk of shame across town with Derek blowing up my phone. As I waited, I called Jessica and filled her in on what happened with Max and the creepy text from Derek. "Holy shit," she whispered. "Are you sure Max didn't set you up?" I hadn't considered that. Max seemed genuinely surprised when I mentioned I was Derek's ex. But what if he already knew? My Uber arrived before I could spiral further, and I spent the entire ride home checking my rearview mirror like some paranoid movie character. When I got to my apartment, Derek was sitting on my doorstep. His eyes were red and puffy, and he jumped up the second he saw me. I nearly turned and ran, but my neighbor Mrs. Johnson was watering her plants and gave me a friendly wave. At least I had a witness if Derek tried anything crazy. "Where were you?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "I've been calling all night." I brushed past him and unlocked my door. "We broke up, Derek. I don't owe you explanations anymore." He followed me inside before I could stop him. "You were with Max, weren't you?" My blood went cold. I turned to face him, trying to keep my expression neutral. "How would you even know who Max is?" Derek's face twisted into something ugly. "Because he's my fucking half-brother, that's why." I literally had to sit down. My legs just gave out and I collapsed onto my couch. "You're what?" "My half-brother. Same dad, different moms." Derek was pacing now, running his hands through his greasy hair. "And you just had to sleep with him, didn't you? You just had to ruin everything." My mind was reeling. In all our time together, Derek had never once mentioned having a half-brother, let alone that it was his boss. I thought back to Max's reaction when I told him about Derek, how unsurprised he seemed. It all made sickening sense now. "Why didn't you ever tell me about him?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Derek laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Why would I? Max is everything I'm not. Rich, successful, good-looking. Dad's golden child who can do no wrong." He kicked my coffee table, sending my magazines flying. "And now he's taking you too." I stood up, anger replacing my shock. "Nobody took me, Derek. You literally told me I needed to change my body to meet your standards after making $50 online. You broke up with me." "That wasn't a breakup," he shouted. "That was motivation. I was trying to help you." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The audacity of this man was actually impressive in a twisted way. "Get out," I said, pointing to the door. "Now." Instead of leaving, Derek pulled out his phone. "You know what? I'm calling my dad. He needs to know what kind of person his precious Max really is, sleeping with his brother's girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend," I corrected, but Derek wasn't listening. He was already dialing. I should have kicked him out, but morbid curiosity kept me rooted to the spot. Derek put the phone on speaker as it rang. A gruff voice answered. "Derek, this better be important. I'm in a meeting." "Dad, Max slept with my girlfriend," Derek blurted out. There was a long pause on the other end. "And?" Derek's face fell. "What do you mean and? He's my brother. That's messed up." "First of all," his dad said with a sigh that suggested this wasn't their first dramatic conversation, "from what Max told me, you and this girl broke up days ago. Second, you're an adult. Handle your own relationship problems instead of running to me like a child." I tried not to look satisfied, but it was hard. Derek's face was turning an alarming shade of red. "You always take his side," Derek shouted. "Always. What about the job? Are you going to let him him fire me too? Another long pause. Derek, Max is your boss. If he fired you, I'm sure he had valid reasons. He fired me because of her. Derek pointed at me like I was some kind of criminal. I shook my head. I never asked him to fire you. I didn't even know you were related until 2 minutes ago. Derek's dad cleared his throat. Look, Derek, this was your last chance. We agreed. No more handouts. You wanted to work for Max and he gave you a shot despite his reservations. If you couldn't make that work, that's on you. Derek threw his phone across the room. It hit the wall and fell to the floor, the screen cracking. His dad's voice was still coming through, asking if he was still there. You ruined everything. Derek hissed at me. Everything. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard my framed posters rattled. I picked up his broken phone and ended the call, my hands trembling. What had I just gotten myself into? I called Jessica right away and told her everything. She came over with emergency ice cream and wine, the universal cure for drama. We sat on my bedroom floor analyzing the situation like it was a true crime podcast. So Max is Derek's half-brother, Jessica said for the 5th time, still processing. And Derek got fired? I nodded, pouring more wine into my mug, because I'm a classy adult with proper stemware, obviously. Apparently. And his dad is totally done with him. Okay, but did Max know who you were when you connected on LinkedIn? Jessica asked the million-dollar question. I've been wondering the same thing. I don't know. He didn't seem shocked when I told him about Derek, but he also didn't admit he already knew. You need to talk to him, Jessica declared. Like, now, I groaned. And say what? Hey, just found out you're my ex's brother. Did you sleep with me to mess with him? Or do you actually like me? Yes, exactly that. Jessica grabbed my phone and found Max's number from the text I'd sent her earlier. She typed out a message asking if we could meet tomorrow to talk, then showed it to me for approval. Send it, I said, liquid courage flowing through my veins. Max responded almost immediately, suggesting coffee at 10 a.m. No emoji, no explanation, just time and place. Very mysterious. I barely slept that night. My brain kept replaying scenarios. Was Max using me? Was Derek going to show up at my door again? Was I in some weird family feud I knew nothing about? The coffee shop was bustling when I arrived the next morning. Max was already there, looking annoyingly perfect in jeans and a button-down shirt. He smiled when he saw me, and my stupid heart did a little flip despite everything. Thanks for meeting me, I said, sliding into the chair across from him. He'd already ordered my favorite drink, a detail I'd mentioned during our date. Max nodded. I figured we should talk after everything with Derek. So you know he came to my place? He called me too, several times. Max ran a hand through his hair. Look, I should have been upfront with you. I knew who you were when you connected with me on LinkedIn. My stomach dropped. So this was all just to get back at Derek? Max shook his head quickly. No, not at all. I was curious at first, I'll admit. Derek talks about you all the time at work. Or did, I guess. But when we met, it wasn't about him. I wanted to believe him, but the whole situation felt so messy. Why didn't you tell me you were brothers? Half-brothers, Max corrected. And it's complicated. Derek and I, we've never been close. Different moms, different upbringings. My dad left Derek's mom when Derek was a baby. Married my mom. Classic blended family disaster. I nodded, trying to understand. So you gave Derek a job because your dad asked you to? Max sighed. Yes. Derek kept failing at everything he tried, and my dad thought working for me might straighten him out. It was a disaster from day one. He was always late, spent most of his time working on his side hustle instead of actual work, and talked badly about me to the other employees. That sounded like the Derek I knew. So you fired him? I had to, but it had nothing to do with you, I swear. It happened the day before we even met for drinks. I processed this information, trying to decide if I believed him. Your timing is suspicious. Max leaned forward. I know how it looks, but I really like you. The connection request caught me off guard, but I was intrigued. When we met, it just felt right. Before I could respond, the coffee shop door banged open and Derek stormed in. His eyes locked on our table and he made a beeline toward us. People turned to stare as he knocked into chairs on his way over. Seriously? Derek shouted, loud enough for the whole place to hear. You're still seeing him? I felt my face burning as everyone watched our drama unfold. Max stood up calmly, positioning himself between me and Derek. Derek, you need to leave, Max said in a low voice. Derek jabbed a finger into Max's chest. You stole my job, my dad, and now my girlfriend. You've taken everything from me. Ex-girlfriend, I corrected again, standing up too. And nobody stole me. I make my own decisions. Derek's eyes were wild, darting between us. You don't understand. This is what he does. He takes what's mine because he can. Max's jaw tightened. That's not true and you know it. You lost your job because you didn't do the work. Dad supports me because I don't expect handouts. And she left you because you treated her like crap. A barista approached cautiously. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Derek ignored her, still glaring at Max. You've always been jealous of me. I couldn't help it. I snorted. Derek whirled on me. What's so funny? The idea that anyone would be jealous of you, I said before I could stop myself. Derek's face crumpled. For a second, I thought he might cry. Then he straightened up, looking between us one last time. You deserve each other, he spat, then turned and stormed out. Max and I sank back into our chairs as the coffee shop returned to its normal buzz, now with added whispers about the scene they'd just witnessed. I'm sorry about that, Max said. Derek's always been unstable. I wrapped my hands around my cooling coffee. I should have seen the red flags earlier. The mood swings, the grandiose ideas about getting rich quick, the constant need for validation. Max nodded. He's been like that since we were kids. Always scheming, never following through. So where does this leave us? I asked, gesturing between us. Max reached across the table and took my hand. Wherever you want it to, but maybe we should take it slow, given everything. I agreed, and we spent the next hour actually getting to know each other properly. No secrets, no revenge plots, just two people talking. By the time we left, I felt cautiously optimistic. Maybe something good could come out of this mess after all. That feeling lasted exactly 3 hours. I was at home working on an essay when my phone exploded with notifications. Jessica had sent me 15 texts in a row, all variations of call me now and OMG check Instagram. I opened Instagram to find that Derek had posted a series of screenshots, private messages between Max and his friends where they discussed me. The messages were from before we met, proving Max had known exactly who I was and had planned to get back at Derek through his girlfriend. There were crude comments about my appearance and bets about how quickly Max could get me into bed. My hands shook as I called Max. He answered on the first ring. I can explain, he said immediately. Those messages are real, but they're from before we met. I was being a jerk, showing off to my friends. Once I actually met you, save it. I cut him off. You're just as bad as Derek. You both used me. I hung up and burst into tears. Jessica came over immediately and held me while I cried. I felt so stupid. I'd played right into their family drama and gotten myself caught in the middle. Those messages were from a month ago, Jessica pointed out, looking through the screenshots again. Before you even sent the connection request. How did Derek know to screenshot them back then? I hadn't thought of that. Maybe Max's friends told him? Jessica shook her head. Something doesn't add up. She was right. I texted one of Derek's friends, Ryan, who I'd gotten along with during our brief relationship. I asked if he knew anything about the situation. He called me almost immediately. Derek hacked Max's Instagram weeks ago, Ryan explained. He's had access to all his messages. He was constantly checking to see if Max was talking trash about him to their mutual friends. So he knew I was meeting Max before it even happened? I asked, my skin crawling. Yeah, he saw your connection request come through. He showed me the screenshots of Max's messages about you and was furious. But instead of confronting either of you, he decided to let it play out so he could expose you both. I I thanked Ryan and hung up, feeling sick. Derek had known everything from the beginning. He could have warned me about Max's true intentions, but instead, he let me walk right into it so he could play the victim later. I called Max back and explained what I learned. He was silent for a long moment. I still said those things, he finally admitted. I can't take that back. But after meeting you, everything changed. I was going to tell you everything yesterday, but then Derek showed up. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Both brothers had manipulated me in different ways. I told Max I needed time to think and hung up. The next day, I woke up to more drama. Derek had apparently shown up at his dad's house in the middle of the night, drunk and ranting about Max stealing his life. His dad had called the police to remove him from the property. Derek then posted a rambling video online, accusing his family of abandoning him and claiming Max had systematically stolen everything he cared about. I watched the video with growing alarm. Derek looked terrible, unshaven, bags under his eyes, slurring his words. He mentioned my name several times, alternating between calling me the love of his life and accusing me of betraying him. He's scaring me, I told Jessica over FaceTime. He seems completely unhinged. You should stay with me for a few days, she suggested, just until he calms down. I agreed and packed a bag. As I was loading it into my car, Max pulled up in his sleek black BMW. He got out looking worried. I saw Derek's video, he said. I'm concerned about both of you. I'm staying with Jessica for a while, I explained, keeping my distance. Max nodded. That's smart. Look, I know you don't trust me right now, and I don't blame you, but I want you to have this. He handed me a USB drive. It's all the texts and emails between Derek and me over the years. You'll see what kind of person he really is, and what kind of person I've been too. No more secrets. I took the drive, not sure what to say. Thanks, I guess. Be careful, okay? Derek's not stable right now. I promised I would and watched him drive away, the USB drive heavy in my pocket. That night, Jessica and I went through the files in the drive. It was years of communication between the brothers, and it painted a complex picture. Derek constantly asking Max for money, for connections, for favors, all while bad-mouthing him behind his back. Max sometimes being cruel, sometimes trying to help, often just exasperated. Neither of them came out looking great, but Derek's manipulation was clear. He'd been using Max's guilt over their complicated family situation for years. Wow, Jessica said as we finished reading. Both these guys have serious issues. I nodded, emotionally drained. But Derek seems actually dangerous right now. As if on cue, my phone rang with a call from Derek. I let it go to voicemail. He immediately called again, and again, and again. Should I answer? I asked Jessica. She shook her head. Text him that you're safe but need space. If he keeps calling, we'll call the police. I sent the message. Derek responded immediately. I need to see you. I'm not doing well. Please. My heart sank. Despite everything, I didn't want him to hurt himself. I showed Jessica the message. Call his dad, she suggested. He needs help, but not from you. I found the number from Derek's broken phone, which I still had. His dad answered gruffly, but grew concerned when I explained the situation. He promised to check on Derek and let me know he was okay. An hour later, he called back. Derek's not at his apartment and he's not answering his phone. I'm getting worried. My stomach dropped. I thought about the wild look in Derek's eyes at the coffee shop, his rambling video, his desperate texts. What if he did something drastic? Try Max, I suggested. Maybe Derek went to confront him again. 20 minutes later, Max called me in a panic. Derek's here. He's drunk and threatening to hurt himself if I don't make things right. I don't know what to do. I'm calling 911, I said immediately. What's your address? After giving the information to emergency services, I sat with Jessica in tense silence, waiting for news. An hour crawled by before Max called again. They took him to the hospital for evaluation, Max explained, his voice tired. He had pills with him. I don't know if he took any. Oh my God, I whispered. Is he going to be okay? I think so. They're keeping him for observation. Dad's with him now. Relief flooded through me. Thank you for calling them. You probably saved his life. He's still my brother, Max said simply. The next few days passed in a blur. Derek was released from the hospital and admitted to an intensive outpatient program for depression and anxiety. His dad finally stepped up, taking time off work to help Derek get settled in therapy and a new apartment away from campus. Max kept his distance from both Derek and me, which I appreciated. He sent one text saying he was giving me space but was there if I needed anything. I didn't respond. A week after everything went down, I received a letter from Derek. Not a text. An actual handwritten letter. His handwriting was neater than I expected. I'm sorry for everything, he wrote. I'm getting help now and realize how toxic I've been. You didn't deserve any of this. Neither did Max. I've been jealous of him my whole life, and instead of working on myself, I tried to bring him down to my level. I used you as a pawn in our family drama, and that was unforgivable. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry and I'm working to be better. The letter felt sincere, but after everything that had happened, I wasn't sure what to believe anymore. I showed it to Jessica, who read it twice. Seems genuine, she said cautiously, but you don't owe him a response. I nodded, folding the letter and putting it away. I needed time to process everything before deciding how to move forward. With Derek, with Max, with all of it. 2 days later, I ran into Max at the campus library. It was awkward at first, both of us fumbling through small talk about classes and the weather. Finally, I asked the question that had been bothering me. Those messages to your friends about me, were you really just trying to get revenge on Derek? Max looked genuinely ashamed. At first, yes. I saw your connection request and thought it was a perfect opportunity to mess with him. It was immature and cruel, and I'm sorry. But when we actually met, everything changed. I really did like you. Still do. The revenge plot seemed stupid and petty compared to actually getting to know you. I nodded, not sure what to say. Part of me wanted to believe him, but trust was hard to rebuild. How's Derek doing? I asked, changing the subject. Better, I think. We're actually talking, really talking, for the first time in years. Our dad is finally acknowledging his role in our messed up relationship. It's a start, I smiled, genuinely happy to hear that. That's good. He deserves a chance to get better. So do we, Max said softly. Not as a couple necessarily, but as people who got caught in a toxic situation we didn't create. He was right. I hadn't caused the brothers' lifelong feud, but I'd been swept up in it all the same. Now it was time to decide what I wanted, separate from either of them. I need more time, I told Max honestly. This whole situation has been a lot to process. He nodded in understanding. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, as a friend, if nothing else. As I walked away, I felt lighter somehow. The drama wasn't entirely over, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for sure. I deserved better than being caught between two brothers and their issues, and I was finally ready to put myself first. I left the library feeling weird, but also kind of relieved after talking to Max. I needed space to figure things out without either brother's drama clouding my judgment. For the next couple weeks, I focused on classes and hanging out with Jessica. She made me promise to delete both their numbers from my phone, which I did without arguing. We even went on a mini road trip that weekend to a beach a few hours away, spending the day building sandcastles and eating ice cream like we were kids again. See? Jessica said as we watched the sunset. Life is so much better without boy drama. I laughed and agreed, feeling the knot in my stomach finally starting to unravel. I was starting to feel like myself again, not Derek's girlfriend or Max's rebound or whatever I was to either of them. But of course, because the universe apparently hates me, my drama-free bubble didn't last long. 3 weeks after my library run-in with Max, I was grabbing coffee before my morning class when I literally crashed into Derek. Like full-on collision, coffee spilling everywhere, the whole embarrassing scene. I'm so sorry, I started saying before realizing who it was. Then I just froze. Derek looked different, healthier. His face had filled out a bit, and he was wearing clean clothes that actually matched. He even had a haircut that didn't look like he'd done it himself with kitchen scissors. Hey, he said quietly. It's good to see you. I nodded awkwardly, not sure what to say. The barista handed us some napkins, and we both started cleaning up the mess I'd made. How are you doing? I finally asked, figuring basic politeness was safe. Better, he said. A lot better, actually. I've been in therapy 3 times a week. Turns out I have some stuff to work through. He gave a small laugh. I smiled despite myself. That's really good, Derek. There was an awkward pause, and then Derek took a deep breath. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I owe you a real apology. In person, not just that letter. He gestured to an empty table, and after a moment's hesitation, I sat down. The old Derek would have launched into a self-centered monologue about his feelings, but this version sat quietly, gathering his thoughts. What I did to you was awful, he finally said. The way I treated you, the things I said about your body, it was disgusting. I was so insecure about myself that I tried to control you instead of working on me. I nodded, surprised by his self-awareness. And then using you to get back at Max, letting you walk into that situation knowing what he'd said, that was even worse. Derek looked genuinely ashamed. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I understand how badly I messed up and I'm really sorry. I believed him. Maybe it was the lack of excuses or the way he wasn't trying to win me back, but something felt different. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. I checked my watch. I have class, but I appreciate you saying all that. Derek nodded and stood up. For what it's worth, I'm rooting for you and Max. I felt my cheeks flush. There is no me and Max. Derek raised his eyebrows. Really? Because he talks about you all the time. Like, annoyingly so. I didn't know what to do with that information. We're figuring things out. Well, he's a good guy, despite everything. Derek hesitated, then added, we're trying to be actual brothers now. It's weird, but nice. I smiled. That's good. I'm happy for you both. We said goodbye, and I headed to class feeling strangely light. Derek's apology felt like closing a chapter, and I realized I didn't hate him anymore. I just felt nothing, which was actually a relief. Later that day, I told Jessica about the encounter. She was appropriately suspicious. So he's just magically a better person now? She asked, raising an eyebrow. I shrugged. People can change, and he seemed genuinely different. If you say so, Jessica replied, clearly unconvinced. What about the Max thing? Are you gonna reach out to him? I flopped back on her bed. I don't know. Part of me wants to, but it still feels complicated. Girl, everything with you is complicated. Jessica laughed. But for real, if you like him, maybe give it a shot. Just take it super slow. I was still considering it when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was Max. Apparently he'd gotten a new phone and wanted to make sure I had his number just in case. I stared at the message for a solid 5 minutes before responding with a simple, thanks. Jessica rolled her eyes at my lame reply, but I wasn't ready to dive back into anything yet. A week later, I got another text from Max asking if I wanted to get coffee sometime, as friends. I agreed, and we set a date for Saturday afternoon. I was nervous when I arrived at the coffee shop, but Max was casual and didn't try to push anything romantic. We talked about classes, movies, our families, normal stuff that had nothing to do with Derek or the drama. It was nice. As we were leaving, Max mentioned that his dad was hosting a small birthday dinner for him the following weekend. Derek will be there, he said carefully, but so will a bunch of other people. If you wanted to come, I'd really like that. I hesitated. I don't know, Max. That seems like it could be awkward. Totally understand, he said quickly. No pressure at all. I thought about it for the next few days. Part of me was curious to see the brothers together now that they were supposedly working on their relationship. And I did like Max, but was I ready to dive back into their family dynamic? I called Jessica for advice and she surprised me by encouraging me to go. Just don't go alone, she said. Take me as your buffer. So that's how I ended up walking into Max's dad's fancy house the following Saturday with Jessica as my +1. I was super nervous, but Max greeted us warmly and introduced us around. His dad shook my hand firmly, studying my face like he was trying to place me. Ah, he finally said. You're the girl from the coffee shop incident. He smiled kindly. I'm glad you came. Max hasn't stopped talking about you. I felt my face heat up as Max groaned. Dad, seriously? His dad laughed and moved on to greet other guests. I spotted Derek in the corner, talking to an older woman I assumed was his mom. He saw me and gave a small wave but didn't come over, which I appreciated. The evening was surprisingly pleasant. Max's friends were funny and welcoming, the food was amazing, and I actually had a good time. After dinner, I stepped outside onto the back porch to get some air and found Derek already there. Not awkward at all, I joked, turning to go back inside. Wait, Derek said. You don't have to leave. I was actually about to go help Mom with the dessert. I nodded and moved to the railing, looking out at the perfectly manicured backyard. Derek hesitated in the doorway. I meant what I said before, he told me. I'm glad you came tonight. Max really likes you, and you deserve someone who appreciates you. Before I could respond, he went back inside. I stood there processing his words when Max came out a few minutes later. Everything okay? He asked. I saw Derek talking to you. Yeah, it's fine, I assured him. He was actually being nice. It's weird. Max laughed. Tell me about it. Family therapy is making him almost tolerable. We stood side by side, watching the stars come out. It was nice, comfortable in a way I hadn't expected. I'm sorry about everything that happened, Max said suddenly. I know I've said it before, but I really am. You got caught in the middle of our messed up family drama, and that wasn't fair. I turned to look at him. I played my part too. Connecting with you to get back at Derek wasn't exactly mature. We were all pretty awful, Max agreed with a small smile. But maybe we can start fresh. No revenge, no family drama, just us. I felt a flutter in my stomach. I'd like that. The party wrapped up around midnight. Jessica had hit it off with one of Max's friends and was getting his number as I grabbed our coats. Max walked us to my car. Would it be okay if I called you tomorrow? He asked. I nodded, feeling suddenly shy. I'd like that. He leaned in slowly, giving me plenty of time to back away, but I met him halfway. The kiss was sweet and brief, but it made my heart race all the same. When we got in the car, Jessica was grinning. So that looked promising. I couldn't help smiling back. Yeah, maybe. The next few weeks were kind of amazing. Max and I started dating properly. Real dates with conversations that had nothing to do with Derek or family drama. We took things slow, both of us a little gun shy after everything that had happened. He was different than I'd expected, thoughtful and funny, not at all the arrogant player Derek had described. Derek and I settled into a polite acquaintanceship. We weren't friends exactly, but we could be in the same room without it being weird. He started dating someone new, a girl from his therapy group who seemed really nice, and I was genuinely happy for him. One night in late November, about 3 months after the whole mess started, the three of us ended up at the same campus event, a charity fundraiser that Max's company was sponsoring. I was helping at the registration table when Derek approached with his new girlfriend. Hey, he said easily. This is Melissa. Melissa, this is... He hesitated. I'm an old friend, I supplied, shaking her hand. I could see the relief on Derek's face at my diplomatic description. Melissa smiled. Nice to meet you. Derek told me about, well, everything. She laughed a little. I appreciate you not making this awkward. I liked her immediately. Life's too short for awkward, right? As they moved on, Max appeared beside me. That was mature of you. I shrugged. I'm growing as a person. He laughed and kissed my cheek. That's one of the things I love about you. The word love hung between us, neither of us acknowledging it directly, but both aware he'd said it. I found I didn't mind. Later that evening, as Max drove me home, he brought it up. I know it's probably too soon, but I think I'm falling in love with you. And not because of any Derek-related drama or family stuff. Just you. I smiled, feeling warm despite the December chill. I think I might be falling for you too. He grinned like I'd given him the best gift ever. When we got to my apartment, Jessica was having a study group, so we sat in his car talking. He took my hand, his expression turning serious. I need you to know something. I'm transferring Derek's position to our Seattle office next month. It was his idea, a fresh start away from Dad's oversight. I nodded, surprised but glad Derek was making positive changes. I wanted to tell you myself before he did, Max continued, but I also wanted to make sure you knew it has nothing to do with us. I'm not trying to get rid of him or anything. I believe you, I said, and realized I truly did. The weird triangle between us had finally balanced into something healthier. The next day, Derek texted to tell me about Seattle himself. He seemed excited about the opportunity. At the end of the message, he added, "Thanks for everything. For what it's worth, I think you two are good together." I showed the text to Jessica, who'd become my relationship counsel through this whole saga. "Well, look at that," she said. "A healthy resolution to your soap opera love triangle. Who would have thought?" I laughed and leaned back against my bed. Definitely not me. Looking back on everything now, it's hard to believe it all started with a stupid $50 website and Derek's ridiculous requirements. If he hadn't been such a jerk, I never would have connected with Max. And if Max hadn't been trying to get back at his brother, we might never have met. It's been 6 months now. Derek's doing well in Seattle. Max and I are taking things one day at a time, and I've learned more about relationships than I ever wanted to know. Sometimes the messiest beginnings lead to the best endings. Or at least that's what I tell myself when people ask how Max and I met. Because I accidentally slept with my boyfriend's half-brother boss for revenge is still not a great conversation starter, even if it all worked out in the end.